In this video and podcast, we're going to be talking about bad dating advice. We're going to dispel all of the myths that you may be believing that could be preventing you from having the love that you want. We're going to be talking about the bare minimum mentality.
We're going to talk about if he wanted to, he would.
We're going to talk about the idea that nobody can love you if you don't love you first. We're going to be dispelling so many myths. And if you don't know who we are, my name is Matt.
And I'm Kelley.
And we help women, single women, have the love that they want. So with that said, let's get into it.
So the very first one, don't settle for the bare minimum.
Yes.
I know you've probably all heard that one. And here's where I think it's true, because I want to give it a little bit of credit, okay? I don't think women should settle for a man who doesn't want to commit. You shouldn't chase around a guy who doesn't want you, who's not asking you on dates. 100%. Cut that connection off. That's not good. And I would say that's bad, maybe bare minimum, that you should be with a guy who wants to be with you, who's pursuing you, who's obviously interested in you. However, where I see it go like so far to the other extreme is where there are videos on Instagram of men doing so much for women, buying them flowers, picking them up, paying for everything, and then women in the comments saying, well, that's the bare minimum. And I think that's like an entitled attitude that a man in his healthy masculinity is not going to be attracted to. And it's also gonna take you out of reality and into a fantasy world where you're looking for Prince Charming who's gonna sweep you off your feet, and you're gonna struggle to find that.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts about that one?
A lot. So one of the things that I would say is that there's different advice for different people. So a lot of the time, the bare minimum mentality can actually be useful for certain women. So let me explain. So a lot of the time, it can be useful for someone if they have been trampled over, if they have shared their needs and they learned that, okay, every single time that I share my needs, it's not heard, it's not seen, it's not even acknowledged. And I really have to fight to get my needs met when I'm just getting breadcrumbs. Now, for a lot of women who have convinced themselves that, okay, maybe I should just settle, like maybe this person not replying or this person not showing up for me, maybe that's just what I can have. Maybe that's just all the guys that are out there. Now, for those women, that can be useful to say like, hey, that's actually the bare minimum. And also it can be a disservice to a lot of women, like what Kelley was just sharing, where they are in a paradigm of entitlements, that I should just have this, and also I don't even want to acknowledge when men are showing up for me. And it's important to remember that with men and women, we are inherently equal and beautifully different. Inherently equal to God and beautifully designed, differently designed, right? Designed differently, because what I value and what Kelley values, generally speaking, men and women, we value different things. So for example, for a lot of women that we speak to, a lot of women tend to value safety more than men. And men tend to value respect and appreciation a lot more than women. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't value safety. It doesn't mean that Kelley doesn't value feeling respected and appreciated. It just means that the hierarchy of values is completely different. How we receive love is completely different, generally speaking, between men and women. So knowing that, the bare minimum mentality takes away the very thing that men love, which is winning. And also feeling appreciated, feeling acknowledged, feeling that they can win with you. So the bare minimum mentality takes away women appreciating, acknowledging men, saying, hey, you just won with me. I love that, right? And because that is taken away, then men can't feel like the hero. Men want to feel like the hero. Well, Matt, that sounds egotistical. Yeah, it is egotistical. And at the same time, it's a big part of what men love. We love feeling like we've won. We love knowing that we've made you happy. So one of the best things that someone can remember is that you want to acknowledge the very aspect, the very behavior that you want even more of. Because if men aren't winning with you, then they're like, well, I don't feel appreciated here. I don't feel like I can win here. So why even bother? In fact, when I do show up, it's criticized or it's not acknowledged, so I'm not going to continue to do this. So it goes against the very thing that you're being taught, like bare minimum, don't even acknowledge it. That's just what he should do. Yes, and Men crave love, appreciation. So that's what I would say to that.
Yeah, so just to wrap it up, one more thought for me is just instead of comparing the guy you're dating to some reel you're seeing on Instagram that's saying it's the bare minimum, instead be clear on your values and what you're looking for in a relationship and let that be your bare minimum. A man who has shared values, who's at a similar life stage, and who wants similar things to you. Let that be your North Star, not what someone posted about a guy getting her flowers on Instagram.
Yeah. Done. Next one.
Done. Me next again. Okay, next one. This is another one. If he wanted to, he would. It bothers me. It's not my favorite phrase, and I don't recommend buying into this mentality. Now, just to give a fair shout out to maybe where it's true, again, I think it comes back to a man just being like available to go on a date with you. Like, don't chase a man who obviously doesn't like you, who's not putting in any effort, who's not asking you on dates. Don't be doing any of that, okay? Because if he wanted to give you his attention and go on a date, he would. So that's the extreme where that is true, okay? A man's going to show you that he's interested. That's true. However, when we get into the other extreme of if he wanted to, he would, again, it's kind of falls into this entitlement where women think that it's a man's job from the very first date to sweep you off your feet and say all the right things and choose you from the very beginning and be all in from the very beginning. And I think it's like the fantasy that we're all sold as little girls, that we're gonna find our Prince Charming. So then when a normal guy comes along who genuinely is available, but he's gonna go slower in the dating process, he's gonna show he's interested, but he's not gonna be 100% sure from date one, because actually that is a red flag. If a guy comes into date one and he's like buying you flowers, taking you shopping, like all these things, I actually think that's a red flag, because that can be a sign of love bombing, but also it can be a sign of maybe unhealthy attachment. I actually think it's great when a man comes in slowly and with discernment, and who's also clear on what he wants. And yeah, so, I think if there's, and, if I feel like sometimes if he wanted to, he would, is also a way for women to get out of thinking that they need to ask for something that they want.
True.
Right? So for example, a lot of women want commitment. They're dating a guy and they want to commit. And of course we want him to bring up the conversation. And I think we also get that conditioning too. He should bring up the conversation. And so then we see a reel on Instagram. It says if he wanted to, he would. And we think he doesn't like us and I should just leave because he'd commit if he wanted to. And then we get wrapped up in the BS of this phrase, and that's where it bothers me. Because actually what I think that is a great opportunity for you to lean in if you were in the situation, right? But like for you to lean in and to share your desire for commitment with this man. Because oftentimes it is the woman who wants commitment first, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's our desire for safety, it's our femininity, and so it's our job when we feel that to reveal that to him, even though that's so scary. And I actually did this in our relationship. And I shared with Matt that I wanted commitment, and I was really clear on it, and I kind of put my foot down, and I was like, not in an aggressive way, but I was really clear and wasn't willing to budge. And it really invited Matt to step into a relationship with me, which he did, right? And so don't let, if he wanted to, he would brainwash you into not communicating with the guy you like, because he might not know you want that. And you need to also communicate what you want, whether that's flowers or commitment, or for him to plan a date, especially once you get deeper into the relationship and deeper into dating.
Yes.
You can't just, expect him to be doing that all the time without you ever asking or sharing what you want or how you feel. Yeah, I recently heard this podcast, and this woman, she said it's a woman's job to move things towards marriage. It's a woman's job to tell her man that she wants marriage and kids, because it is that feminine desire. We're going to want that first, usually, and so we need to reveal that to our men and invite them into that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next one is nobody can love you if you don't love you first. So I wanted to share this one because this has been a big part of my journey. I remember hearing this. I remember one of my best friends growing up. I remember him saying that to me. And as I've got older, I still feel relatively young, but as I have got older since that time, one of the things that I truly believe is that is not true. And so let's just break this down. Nobody can love you if you don't love you first. So the question is not do you love yourself or do you not? It actually exists on a scale. So it's to what degree do you love yourself, right? Rather than do you love you or do you not love you? To what degree do you love yourself? In what way do you not love you? Because there may be different aspects of you that you absolutely love, and then there are other aspects where you're in the practice of finding it challenging to love. So for example, to this very day, one of the things, actually let me just rewind for a second. When I first met Kelley, there were many things that I was in the practice of learning to love, and still to this day, I'm in the practice of learning to love. So how is it that Kelley is able to love me when there are still things that I'm dealing with? So for example, one of those things that I've dealt with since childhood is body image. It's been a big part of my journey. And one of the things that I've shared with Kelley, I've shared to Kelley about this, and to this day, it's like something that I'm in the practice of learning to love my body. And for those of you who don't know, like as a kid, I was like bullied. I was a chubby kid, not massively overweight or obese, but chubby enough to get laughed at with how I looked. And to this day, it's still like a trauma, not as challenging as it once was, but it still comes up for me every now and then. And the reason why I share this is because it can be so easy to get into this perfectionist mentality and think that I need to love all of me, I need to heal all of my wounds, I need to get to a point of complete perfection before I'm ready for a relationship. And it's just not true. It's just getting to the point where you're ready enough. It's getting to the point where the aspects that you're still learning to love doesn't completely get in the way of you having the love and intimacy that you ultimately want. Right? Now for you, it's like, okay, to what degree do you love yourself? On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being you love yourself completely, 0 being you don't love yourself completely. Where are you on that scale? Even take the number 7 out of the scale. That's what we love to do with our clients. Just take the number 7 out, because 7's like the gray area. If you were to put yourself on that scale, where would you be? And you can get even more specific. In the area of body image, where are you? In certain other areas, where are you? So then that way you can look at that's where my work is, while also acknowledging that I can still be in the practice of loving myself in these areas, while also calling in the love that I want, because I'm never going to be perfect, right? So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and I feel like so many of this bad dating advice is perfectionism at play.
Yes.
Because actually all the ones we've gone through now are like expecting him to be perfect, expecting you to be perfect, and really the beautiful thing about relationship is that you're gonna grow together. And if you're just waiting for when you're perfect or you find the perfect guy who's perfectly healed and you're perfectly healed, you're gonna be searching forever, and you're gonna be hard on yourself forever, and you're gonna be hard on men forever. So it's like actually getting into the imperfect messiness of reality and the really cool process of getting to grow with someone, like getting to grow in our own insecurities and getting to become the men and women that we want to be together. Because actually a lot of that work we can only do together.
The next thing that we want to speak into is the mentality of you can have whatever you want. A lot of us, I'll speak from personal experience. Before I met Kelley, I remember 5 or 6 years before meeting Kelley, I wrote down a big list of everything that I ultimately wanted in my dream woman, the relationship that I wanted. I wrote down everything in complete detail. And who I was not, I was not, like if Kelley showed up when I wrote that list, there is no way I would have been able to get into a relationship with Kelley. But let's say I even did get into a relationship with Kelley. I would have found a way to sabotage the relationship because I didn't have the skills. I had a lot of trauma that I was dealing with. I had a lot of challenges with how I saw myself. There was so much going on for me. So the reason why I say that is, yes, you can have what you want, and at the same time, there tends to be this inflated and distorted sense of who someone thinks that they are and a lack of skills needed to have the relationship that they want. So it's not about, so yes, you can have what you want, but the most important thing here is, who do I need to become? What do I need to let go of for it to be normal for this type of man that I want to not only show up in my life, but stay in my life and have that relationship, not just keep the relationship, but have that relationship grow and grow over time. So it's looking at, what qualities do I need? What do I need to let go of? What do I get to let go of? What aspects of me is not actually serve me and is not in alignment with having the relationship that I ultimately want? So a big part of my journey was just becoming the type of guy who can have someone as amazing as Kelley, right? So that's what I would say to that.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that from another angle, that idea, you can have everything you want. You know, we talk about this a lot. We work with single women and we do help them attract a relationship that is, we always say everything that they want, but then there's nuance in there because we also work with them to focus on actually what's most important in what they want. Because if a woman's looking for a 6'5" man who makes 200K plus, who's an entrepreneur, who has blue eyes, who whatever it is, you know, we're gonna look at that list with her and be like, okay, what's really important here?
Yes.
It sounds like you really want a man who's attractive. That to you. You really want a man who's in his purpose and who's financially stable. And those are all great things to have and want, but we want to get clear on the values and what's most important, because him having blue eyes is not what's most important, right? It is important that you have chemistry and you're attracted to him, but sometimes even the picture we have in our mind of who we think we're going to be attracted to is different than who we actually are attracted to in person, because it's someone's energy, it's someone's values, and you can meet a man who you never thought you'd be interested in romantically, but he's so masculine. He's so amazing in so many ways that you guys actually have the best chemistry ever. And so you can have what you want. And side note, you need to get clear on what's actually most important beyond the preferences and the superficial types of things that a lot of people have on their lists.
Yes. And just to add on to that, to cement all of this together, we were speaking to a client just recently in our group program, and I made the distinction of, like, so let's say that you want a man who is 6 foot, and he's masculine, he's in his purpose, he's able to provide for you, and he also has the ability to have all of this time that you want for you as well, right? He has all the time for you. It's kind of like saying, I want a job that pays me 7 figures a year, over $1 million a year, and at the same time, I want to have lots of free time. I want to be able to work remotely, wherever it is that I want. I want to have health benefits. I want to have all these different benefits from having this job. One of the first questions that I would have to ask myself if I'm going to apply for this is, am I qualified? Am I qualified to have this type of job? And it's something that I just to cement all of this is like, yes, you can have that, get clear about what is actually most important. And then the second question here, am I qualified to have that? And this is not to like beat yourself up and be like, go into a shame spiral. It's just to have an objective view of, am I qualified to have that? If not, step 3, this is my work here. My work is to now become that type of person where I am qualified to have that, and it's normal. It's normal, like becomes so valuable that it's normal for me to have this type of job, right? It's like, of course I can have this job here because it's who I am. So just to cement all of that, hopefully that helps.
Great. Okay, next bad dating advice is men should make all the first moves. I love this bad dating advice. I love to debunk it because while I agree that it feels really good to be pursued, and I think that women should experience that, and men should be pursuing women and asking them on dates and stuff like that. But there's nuance here. Okay, so we teach this to the women in our programs that actually oftentimes when a man makes a move towards you, it's because you actually created an opening that invited him in. So in that way, you actually made the first move. So this is a classic example that probably most people have experienced maybe. Let's just say you're at a crowded restaurant or bar, and there's music playing, there's a dance floor, and there's a man across the dance floor that you find really attractive. And you look at him and you make eye contact, kind of flirty eye contact for a second, and then he walks over and says hello. So he made the first move kind of technically, right? Because he approached you, started a conversation, and that's really fun and feels really good. However, you invited him in with your eye contact. And that was the opening that you created that let him know, hey, come make a move because I'm interested. And so there's so many ways that we can do this as women. We can even start a conversation. For example, I started the first conversation that Matt and me had. I messaged him, I DM'd him. Yeah. And it wasn't a completely random DM, like we'd both followed each other. So that felt a little bit like an invitation, for me. I didn't want to like just cold DM him, slide into his DMs out of nowhere, but he followed me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start a conversation because I want to create an opening here to connect. And I said, okay, let's see. I'm kind of like passing the ball to him. I'm creating the opening. Let's see if he leans in. And he did. And at the end of that conversation, he asked me on a date, right? So I invited him in. He asked me on a date. And I think sometimes women, we wait for men to approach us, for men to ask us on dates. But are we inviting men in? Are we open and available for a man to come up to us? Or are you at the grocery store with headphones and your head down and like grumpy at the world? Because that's never going to be an invitation for a man to come up to you. And so you want to kind of be in that energy of like open, inviting, and looking for places where you can create openings with men so that they can make those moves with you.
Yeah. And just on this topic, if you want to meet someone in person, I just want you to to the best of your ability, put yourself in the mentality of what a guy is going through before he goes up and says hello. So the first thing, the fear of rejection, let's just put that out there. To go up to someone takes a lot of courage, and for them to say no is one thing. For them to say no while other people are around is another thing. For you to say no while your friend is right next to you, that's a whole other thing. So then there's like group rejection. So that's the first layer. The second layer is the whole Me Too movement. So men, there is this undercurrent of, if I go up to someone, then what if I get canceled? What if she records me? What if something happens and I am then blasted on the internet, right? So there is that going on. The third thing is that there are many barriers that a lot of women might put in place unconsciously that has a guy see you as not available. So the headphones that Kelley is pointing to. If you're with a group of friends, that's a barrier that men have to go up against. If you're just like constantly on the go and there's no availability with your energy, with your body language, that's another thing. If you have if your face is like, hey, don't approach me because if you do, I will eat you. Like, that's another barrier. So we have all of these barriers that men have to go up against to go and say, hi. So put yourself in that mentality, and then from that, your work is, how can I allow myself to look and become as available as possible for more men to approach me? One last thing that I'll add on to this as well is that Kelley and I are putting a group together, a coaching group for single women who wants to be able to date in their feminine. If you're dating someone right now, or if you're not dating someone right now, this is for you. Because what we're going to be coaching all of the women in this group on is dating in your feminine, healing from the past, showing you how to date with discernment so you don't waste time with people who are not the right guy for you. We're also going to be clearing out love blocks, subconscious blocks that you may have that prevents you from having the love that you want, and also having your nervous system to feel safe so that you can have the relationships that you want. So we're going to be coaching you directly. So if you want to know more information about this, go to Kelley's Instagram. We're going to put it here, or if you're listening to the podcast, what is it? It's Kelley.com.
Kelley.com.
CAMA. And then just message her. What is the keyword?
Message me date.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll start a conversation and see if you're a good fit, and I'll send you more info.
Yep, great. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a comment down below. Let us know what was most helpful. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next video or on the next podcast.
Thanks for being here.